This is the TSG Multimedia podcast for November of 2021. We're sponsored this month by Podomatic and the TSG Train Crew on Patreon. Thank you very much. I'm your host, John Abaticola, and I have a fair amount to cover this month, so let's get straight to it. First, I'd like to invite you to hit the thumbs up icon if you appreciate the content on this channel. I also want to take a second to mention that you can help support my work by becoming a part of the TSG Train Crew. That's what I call our supporters on Patreon. It's as cheap as $2 a month, and it helps me bring the content you enjoy to the channel. Train Crew members get early access to all the best featured content in ultra-high definition, sometimes months before anyone else gets to see it. If you don't like the idea of recurring monthly support, you can do it just once using paypal.com/paypalme/TSG Multimedia. Someone asked me about this recently, and I realized I never talk about it as an option, but it is an option, and it's been available for years. If you don't like any of those ideas, but you still want to help out, you can also get yourself some branded merchandise by clicking on the links just below the video player on your computer screen. If you still don't like these options that I'm throwing out here, how about getting a DVD from tsgmultimedia.com? Okay, I'm almost done. There's one more option. You don't have a spare $2 or don't need any shirts or any kind of other stuff that I mentioned. The last thing I can think of is also a great way to help, and it doesn't cost anything. Share the content you love with your friends. You can click the share link on this viewing page. If you're on a computer, it's right here. It looks like a little curved arrow. That will pop open a window with a whole bunch of options, including the one that copies the link to your computer's memory so that you can paste it into an email or a social media post. Thanks very much for your help. It makes what we do here possible. Anyway, just something to think about. Let's get to October in review. I'm standing here with Jim Providenza, who's Santa Cruz Northern you may have heard of before, and we're actually doing a layout tour. It'll probably be out sometime early next year, the edited version to the general channel. Of course, patrons on the Patreon channel will get a preview of it as soon as it's done being edited, which will be much sooner than that. But Jim, since we're here, I waited until you started to drink to ask you the question. Why don't you tell the viewers about the railroad?
Well, it is actually September 26th of 1971, and I know that because I set up the dispatcher's office in preparation for the layout tour, and I pulled out the train sheet, and there's the date, September 26, 1971, and we've got the trains listed that have been run and the trains that, so the Santa Cruz Northern is this, double-deck creation. It's been around for almost 35 years. It still is a good operating railroad. I'm humbled by the experience. And pleased that people enjoy coming and seeing it and operating on it. Hopefully the layout tour will give you some impression of what it is that we accomplish and why people enjoy it.
Excellent. Well, we have work to do, so we'll catch you later. We had a great time recording with Jim. We met him a few years ago at the LD-SIG and operations meet. After the day of clinics that we attended, we went to Jim's open house at his layout, and we've been sort of planning on doing a layout tour ever since. So to finally get to do it was very satisfying. One of the most impressive things about what Jim has done with his Santa Cruz Northern is the amount of operations he has squeezed into the layout. When you realize it's not a huge layout, that makes it even more impressive. This layout tour video will come out in February of next year. TSG Train Crew members will get to see it as soon as it's edited. On the 12th, I recorded with Jack Burgess for last month's episode of Model Railroading with Jack Burgess. This most recent episode came out a couple weeks ago, and it's about layout design considerations. If you did not see it, you definitely should, especially if you're thinking about building something or maybe you want to improve a layout you already have. Things like height, depth, ideas for making fascia look better, and a lot more. It's all really good stuff as usual. We're here at the California State Railroad Museum. where we're meeting up with some fellow members of the Pacific Coast region of the NMRA, the Coast Division. We're doing basically what amounts to a field trip here today, and part of our purpose is to get a sort of a inside scoop tour of the Magic of Scale Model Railroading exhibit by one of the people who was instrumental in making it happen. So it should be interesting, and this is one of the things that we do as PCR members of the NMRA. So I'm looking forward to meeting some people that I've only seen really on Zoom meetings because of the past 2 years being in the pandemic, and just having a good time. That's what it's about. The 4294 is the only remaining cab forward of its type, and it's on static display here. Probably will never see the rails again, but this is a lot of people's favorite exhibit in this museum, and it's one of my favorite exhibits as well. They have a staircase on the other side where you can climb up and actually go in and see what the inside of the cab looked like. It's really cool. This alone is probably worth a trip to this museum if you're ever in the area. These three positions here, if you can see, there's tracks in the floor, and they actually use these three positions to rotate the exhibits. And there's a big door behind me to my right where they bring them in, and then there's a turntable just outside that door, which is also pretty cool. This is another one of my favorite spots because you never know what you're gonna see, and they do switch. So you could come this year, you know, have a Southern Pacific, I'm not even sure what that thing is, and then the Union Pacific 4466 is another one of those sort of popular pieces here that I don't think I've ever seen on display, but it's here today. And you can come again next year, or in a few months it'll be something different. This is another one of my favorites here at the museum. It's a 260 from Virginia and Truckee, and you probably can't tell where the camera is, but there are mirrors underneath the locomotive, and I think you can see the mirrors above that let you see a top view and a view from the bottom on this locomotive. It's very unusual to be able to see those things when you see something like this, and it's such a nicely preserved piece of equipment and shows that railroads used to paint the engines different colors. They weren't just black. You know, steam engines, a lot of steam engines are just black, but they had very colorful ones at one point. I was just taking a video of this engine behind us, and when someone says, "Hey, are you John?" and tell the people who you are, Daniel.
Yeah, my name is Daniel. I'm out here in Roseville and Sacramento. Came on here with my son Jackson. We're a longtime viewer of John and Chasing Trains, and so we've just happened to see and recognize him, and wanted to say hi.
So you never know who you'll run into.
Absolutely, say hi. Nice job.
This ended up being a great day out with some excellent folks. I recorded quite a bit of video, and I intend to produce a short program about the field trip and what it means to be a member of the PCR. The exhibit at the museum about scale model railroading is worth the price of admission all on its own, and it was pretty awesome to see Jim Vale's West Side lumber mill scene preserved in a museum. I hadn't seen it since I did the layout tour at his layout in Santa Cruz a few years ago, and to see it on display at the California State Railroad Museum is a great tribute to him. Of course, there are some other preserved layout segments with excellent modeling from other people there, and those are also great examples of model railroading as well. Another really cool one that provided some level of personal attachment was the one of the yards at Chama, New Mexico, where I had just been not more than a month or so prior. Anyway, we ended up hanging out with Gary and Mike Roquet that afternoon, and then we went home that same evening. We had a really awesome episode of TSG Live Talking Trains with Michelle and me last month too. In that episode, Michelle highlighted the swing bridges she saw on a recent trip that she took. That was surprisingly cool. Bridges are an interesting part of infrastructure, and railroads build a lot of them. We also had some great callers who added to the information about how the bridges are operated. If you missed this episode, it is absolutely worth watching on the replay. On the 21st, I interviewed a guy from the UK who does really high quality videos about European steam locomotives. His name is Chris Eden Green, and one of our viewers referred me to him. It turns out that Chris is in the process of trying to raise funds to do some similar programs about North American steam locomotives. That full interview will be published later this month. I urge you to watch it and pitch in if you can help, because the videos that Chris wants to make should be done. Thanks, Matthew, for the referral, and thanks, Chris, for talking to me last month. I'm looking forward to seeing the programs you make on our side of the pond. I'm going to Santa Cruz today to go and take some video of the demonstration that they're putting on of a battery-operated passenger tram, or streetcar, if you will. So that should be really cool. This is something I've been seeing online and hearing about for quite some time now. And we're going to ride it tomorrow. But for today, I'm just going over there to do some, I guess, tram foaming. So we'll see how that goes. I'm expecting to be pretty impressed just based on what I've already seen of this thing. So let's go together and take a look. Alright, so yesterday I went and basically, I guess, rail fanned this TIG-M streetcar that they're sort of demoing here in Santa Cruz. And we're back today to actually ride it. And I was really amazed from the outside of the vehicle how quiet it is. And it'll be interesting to see how quiet it is inside. Now, granted, they're operating this machine at a very limited speed because of track conditions. They can only go, I think, 10 or 15 miles an hour here. So it probably wouldn't be very loud anyway. But the vehicle will do something like 50 miles an hour, which would be really good for commute service here between Watsonville and Santa Cruz. And I'm guessing it would be a little louder going faster. But the point is that it seems like a really good fit to me for them to add commute service to their line here, because there are a lot of people in the south part of Santa Cruz County who can't get here because traffic is so bad, or they can't get here in a decent amount of time because traffic is so bad between Watsonville and Santa Cruz every day. And having a rail corridor as an option would be a good thing, because it's one way to get some cars off the road. And the cool thing about it is that if you're riding it, you're not in a car and you're not stuck in that traffic. So there are a lot of upsides to that whole idea. And this is just a demonstration to show the people of the area what this machine can do. And one of the other really cool things about it is it's wireless. In other words, there's no overhead. So it has no pantograph or, no need for catenary wire, which is nice because that adds a lot of cost to installing something on a rail line. It's actually run using hydrogen fuel cells, which is a bit of a mystery to me. I don't understand how they work, but I'm seriously considering approaching the people that make these things to do a video about them, because it's something different that we really don't see every day. And they actually have these things in service in other parts of the world, which I think is a pretty cool idea. And so anyway, we're going to ride it today, and I'm sure I'll have some thoughts afterwards, maybe even thoughts during the ride, and we'll see how that goes.
So the cost savings and the energy savings, and I want to talk a little bit about the environment and how important this is to the system.
Reach out to Coast Connect, Coast Futura, Coastal Rail, or Friends of the Rail and Trail. You can find out from us very easily how to take action. We have handouts, we've given you slips possibly that have that information, but it's going to be you guys that make this happen.
Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for your patience on this crazy, wintry, stormy day, and we appreciate it.
The 2 days I spent around Santa Cruz checking out this amazing piece of technology were awesome, to say the least. The tram itself is very advanced. If I understand correctly, it runs completely on battery power, and the batteries are charged with hydrogen fuel cells, so there's no need for overhead wires to power the vehicle. That's a big deal for a place like Santa Cruz County, where the rail line they have is not already equipped with overhead wires. That alone will reduce the cost of implementing a commute service with LRVs like this. It also has a computer system that allows other matching trams to be consisted electronically, meaning that they're easily scalable to meet increased demand at peak commute times. Another great advantage of these vehicles is that they're extremely nimble, requiring less than a 50-foot radius. You heard me right, less than a 50-foot radius to turn. And they weigh only 20 tons. That's far less than other railroad equipment, including other contemporary light rail vehicles, which means they won't wear out the rails that they run on. There's a very vocal minority of wealthy real estate vultures and assorted NIMBYs that are trying to get the railroad tracks in the corridor there in Santa Cruz County removed so they can get the legal easements that have existed because of the railroad for over 100 years. If you live in Santa Cruz County and support public transit, I urge you to get involved with this situation so that the minority does not succeed in ruining a good thing for the vast majority of the residents of the county, especially the south part of the county. Anyway, last Saturday was the 5th Saturday of the month, and we had a special episode of TSG Live Model Railroading. This time I was joined by Paul Deese to talk about fine-tuning your rolling stock. Paul's a super cool guy with decades of experience, making this another program with a ton of useful tips for anyone who wants to improve their model layout's operations. Even if you don't have a layout, this one is worth watching on the replay. On Halloween, Sydney and I went to the Fern Creek and Western Garden Railroad in Santa Cruz. Every year they do a huge Halloween display in the front yard and have literally hundreds of trick-or-treaters come to see it. Well, they had to skip last year due to COVID, so it was great to see it happen once again. Watching the people come and go and hearing the comments they're making to each other, as they pass by is always my favorite part of this event. And of course, they always run a train out in the yard as part of the display. Along with all these things, I've been editing quite a lot, which means the TSG Train Crew has been enjoying a lot of sneak peeks of Chasing Trains episodes and layout tours, with a few other things thrown in for good measure. I have another exciting project I've been working on that I'm expecting to make a full announcement about next month. It's the annual SIG meet. This is a 2-day meet put on by the Layout Design Special Interest Group, or LD SIG, in my area. So why would I be excited about that, you ask? Because it's being planned as a fully hybrid event. That means there will not only be people at an event in person, but we will also be doing a virtual version of it simultaneously. Something else that's planned at the moment is that I will most likely be streaming all of this live to this channel at the same time. I don't think this kind of event has ever been done, and some people out there have said that it can't be done, and I guess we'll find out about that. Before we get to the catch of the month, I want to mention some events for November that are worth attending. First and foremost, the Fall Open House at the South Bay Historical Railroad Society is happening today and tomorrow. So what's there, you ask? Not only one, but two model railroad layouts, one HO scale and one N scale, a full railroad museum with all kinds of artifacts and relics, the company store, which is like a table that allows you to buy all kinds of stuff, railroad related stuff, that's been donated to the group, everything from books and photos to toy trains and detailed scale models, and all sales go to support the SBHRS. And there's more. A rail car that's currently undergoing restoration, and how about one of my favorite things? The Santa Clara Interlocking Tower will also be open for tours. I always say this is one of the best railroad-related events in the Bay Area. Now, after 2 years of being shut down due to COVID, you have a chance to check it out once again. There is even more information at sbhrs.org. Silicon Valley Lines is hosting a virtual open house event on November 13th. Check out their website, siliconvalleylines.com, for more info. If you've never participated in SVL's virtual ops, this is a chance to try it out, as they offer everyone a chance to run a train remotely during this event, from anywhere in the world. All you need is an internet connection, and you do need to sign up. So siliconvalleylines.com. The Sacramento Model Railroad Historical Society will be holding an open house on Saturday, November 13th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Sunday, November 14th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The society layout is located at 1900 Grand Avenue in Sacramento. Niles Canyon Railway is running their Train of Lights event this year. Find out more about that at ncry.org. Roaring Camp is running their Holiday Lights train as well. Check out roaringcamp.com for info on that. I'm sure that there are also events in your area, wherever you live, so get out and have some fun while at the same time supporting your local historic preservation organizations. And now for this month's Catch of the Month segment. Andrew Johnson sends in this photo of a couple of Siemens locomotives that are used in Britain. This shot comes from York Station in September of 2021. Ben Harp sends in these photos of a Southern Pacific local working the branch line on the SBHRS HO scale layout. Ethan Doty, a volunteer at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum in Portola, California, and TSG Train Crew member, sent in these two shots. In the first one, UP SD59MX number 9910 leads the local run out of Portola. That was taken on October 15th of 2021. This shot is of Western Pacific GP7 number 707 at the Western Pacific Railroad Museum in Portola, California. It was taken on May 25th of 2016. And this catch comes from yours truly. It's the TIG-M tram running over the famous bridge that a lot of locals refer to as the Lost Boys Bridge in Santa Cruz, California, just after leaving the boardwalk on its way toward Capitola during the demonstration runs last month. If you have a catch you'd like to share, please email it to podcast@tsgmultimedia.com. Be sure you own the photo and let me know the whats, whens, and wheres of the shots you want to share. Now for this month's program schedule. On November 10th, that's this coming Wednesday, I'll be sharing the full talk I had with Chris Eden Green. Be sure not to miss it. Then on the 12th, we have a product spotlight. Next up on the 13th, it's the N-Scale Fremo layout tour from the epic trip I took last August. This layout tour shows off the largest known Fremo N layout ever constructed. On November 15th, it's my birthday, so send money and presents. Then on the 17th at 4 p.m., I'll be live talking trains with Michelle Kempema once again. On November 19th, we have another episode of N-Scale Friday. On the 20th, it's a special episode of TSG Live Model Railroading. I'll be talking with the Layout Design Journal editor, Byron Henderson, about small layouts. On Wednesday, November 24th, it's a look at the Soundtrack's headquarters in Durango, Colorado, with George Bogatuk and Nancy Workman. Happy Thanksgiving on the 25th, and on the 26th, we have another product spotlight. Finally, on the 27th, don't miss part 3 of the epic trip of 2021 on Chasing Trains. Since this is the month for giving thanks, I want to take just a second to thank all the people who make my work possible here on the channel, including everyone watching right now. Without your continued viewership, there wouldn't be much of a reason to do any of this. I also want to thank everyone who has generously contributed by being on the channel. That goes for layout owners as well as friends on Chasing Trains, and of course all of our live shows like Talking Trains with Michelle. I appreciate everyone who makes this happen. Thank you very much. And as usual, here's a list of the TSG Train Crew members who support the work I do here. Huge thanks to the Train Crew, and a reminder to everyone that without these supporters, nothing we enjoy here on the channel would be possible. As one way of thanking them, all Train Crew members enjoy early 4K ultra high definition and ad-free access to the featured Saturday programs, usually weeks before those programs get published to the channel. If you can spare $2 a month or more, you're also invited to join the crew by visiting patreon.com/TSG Multimedia. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.